Howdy, folks. I'm Cool Cucumber, calmly calming crying centipedes.
I'm Amber.
And here are more calming crying centipedes for us to calm. Calming. That's what we're doing. We're calming them because they're crying. They're not calm and crying at the same time. Let's get started.
Are they crying because of Reddit?
Yes, they are. Some of these stories today are real tear jerkers. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for getting so angry at my family over my wife's surgery? I say wife, but we are separated for about a month. With that said, she just found out that she needs a major surgery where she will be bedridden for most part for 8 to 12 weeks afterwards. Our kids range from 2 to 15, and if she gets in surgery before our divorce is final, I can take family medical leave and at least will be there for her. Anyways, I've been living with my family again since we separated, and they're all badgering me to just let her flounder. But it's not like this is just her not working and failing. This is I either help her so that her internal stitches don't pop from helping our kids, or she doesn't get surgery because she has no help. I tried telling them that, and that she might have fallen out of love, but that doesn't stop me from caring about my best friend for the last 16 years. Heck, she was my friend even before we started dating. When they wouldn't listen to me, I got mad and told them that if they couldn't respect my kid's mom, then they didn't need to see them or me anymore, and now they're even more mad. Am I the jerk for drawing that line? I mean, it would be one thing if she and I separated under bad terms, but we just kind of drifted and realized that we were better off not being together anymore. Alright, folks, and I want to read a couple of comments before we actually get into this one. And Cerberus777 says, You're the jerk. She's ditching you. You owe her nothing. And OP replies, We're splitting from each other. And Cerberus777 says, Well, then be split, not a doormat. And OP replies, How is helping someone who needs help being a doormat? A can won't attitude says, Info, what sort of surgery is it that will leave her bedridden? There's only a handful of surgeries in which you have to have bed rest at all. Never mind for that long, and for the majority, it's absolutely imperative that you move. And OP replies, hysterectomy and hernia repair. Not totally bedridden, but she has to not do any heavy lifting at all, her doctor said. Nothing heavier than a towel for her showers. She won't even be able to go grocery shopping. And Nana Leone says, Not the jerk, pack your bags and do what needs to be done for your children and your wife, even if she is your soon-to-be ex and you hate her guts. Any chance that your biological family's hostility towards your wife contributed to the collapse of your marriage? And OP replies, No, it was mostly my fault. I took advantage of the fact that she's tough and doesn't need a lot of help. Instead of jumping in and helping her, I got annoyed with her when she just wanted to sit and write. I've learned since we split that she has ADHD and masks a lot and hides a lot of her pain. And Ladybug0570 says, Did you file or did she? Do you even want this divorce? Because maybe with some counseling post-surgery after you've stepped up like you should have before, you might be able to save the marriage, just saying. And OP replies, yeah, she filed. She was tired of pretending and laid everything out. That was the first time I saw her drop her mask. I had honestly never seen it before, and she was always on until then, and it kind of scared me. But looking back, I would catch her when her mask dropped, and I thought that she was mad or upset, and she would instantly shift and go back to being on when I asked what was wrong. I don't think that she knew how to explain it to me. Alright, folks, I think with all that additional information that we kind of have enough information to kind of go on here and talk about this. So, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
No, absolutely not the jerk. I actually think OP is handling this situation really well. And I think it's unfortunate when relationships collapse that people will go all scorched earth. Like, there are relationships that warrant it, but realizing that he hasn't been supporting her in the way that she needed is not a type of situation where you should just go scorched earth and let her suffer from major surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in this particular case, OP is doing the right thing. I think that there's not like any signs of abuse here. It's not like this was a situation where if he goes back there, it's going to be a danger to himself, right? And that's what's really important, more than anything, is to make sure that if OP goes and takes care of her, that this isn't like an abusive relationship where he just got out and suddenly she now has this surgery and they can't help but care for her or something like that, because that does happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that OP is right here, and I think that it's actually really sweet of them to go and want to help her. And I think that their marriage kind of collapsed under unfortunate circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he should have been helping out all along. He should have stepped up all along. But people also aren't necessarily mind readers, and so if you ever find yourself in a unhappiness, it can really throw someone for a loop if you just out of the blue one day announce that you're divorcing them for, no, without any kind of cause or explanation.
Well, I wonder too if she even knew until recently, because there are a lot of women who get diagnosed with ADHD and autism as adults who might not have even known until very recently. Kind of like the pandemic, when people were at home and watching a lot of YouTube, was a time when a lot of people realized, oh wow, I might be neurodivergent. So it could be something that she's known all along and didn't know how to talk about, or it could just be something she's recently learned that's finally it's all clicked into place and she's like, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that this is actually a really good opportunity. Maybe, just maybe, if OP does go into here and shows that he is willing to actually put in the work and not fall into his old habits of just letting her, fend for herself, then maybe there is a chance that they can actually come out better in a happier place than what they are now. And again, that's not to say that she shouldn't move on from a relationship that she's not happy in, but if somebody actually does change and does become a better partner and it corrects the error in their way, then I think that might be worth giving a relationship another shot.
I mean, that's certainly a possibility, but it's also important not to go in with that expectation.
Hmm.
And I think Opie has the right attitude that he's doing this as a friend.
Oh yeah, I don't think that OP should be have ulterior motives here. I think it's actually really good that they're not even exploring the ulterior motives. I'm just kind of like talking on the side here. So yeah, I agree with you there. It would be bad form if he did go in there with that kind of expectation. Why aren't you in love with me again? But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Asking Our Au Pair to Speak with an English Accent? We hired an au pair to watch our 7-year-old, Rowan, is from Ireland and attends UC. My son adores him, but I can't understand a single word that Rowan says because he has a thick accent. I asked him if he could try to speak without one like us. Plus, some of his accent is rubbing off on our son. It shouldn't be difficult to understand him. He's a very smart person. It's just his accent. I think it's more useful for him to learn how to speak without it. I suggested it to him, but he was very insulted. There's nothing to be insulted over. Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk? Does OP not have an accent? Accentless OP.
I mean, it sounds like Opie has an English accent. So yeah, Opie is a huge jerk here. And how would you like it if someone was like, at your job was like, oh, hey, I can't understand you. Can you start speaking with an Irish accent? Like, people have accents. And sometimes they can be hard to understand, but also sometimes people just use a little that as an excuse to be xenophobic and
Mm-hmm.
dismissive. It seems like OP is upset in particular that their son is starting to pick up a little bit of an accent.
Yeah.
And they may even look down upon it as like the British as like the proper accent and Irish as like a lesser accent.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like to me. It feels like they kind of view this accent as like uneducated or below them or beneath them. And if that's the case, that's a real shame because that's just not the case, right? They already, claim that Rowan is smart.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think you're right that it is a lot to do with their child and they don't want their child picking up an Irish accent here. Yeah, I think that their request here is pretty unreasonable. Don't hire someone with an Irish accent if you don't want a person with an Irish accent.
Well, I was gonna say that, like, presumably when they were choosing an au pair, they had like went through a selection process. I would assume you'd want to at least meet them before just hiring them to look after your child.
They found the first person that they could find from the prisoner island and brought them home. We're like, this is the perfect prisoner to come and teach our child, take care of our child. I'm just kidding, of course. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Piranha says, you're the jerk for expecting them to speak with a fake accent rather than trying to understand them. And of course you have an accent. Everyone has an accent. And OP replies, I'm from the South Bay. I do not have an accent. I think OP is wrong. And Dogs Reading Books says, you're the jerk. Literally everyone has an accent. You just have a different one than Rowan. You've chosen him as an au pair. If you didn't want someone who spoke like Rowan, then you should have gone with someone else. And OP replies, we do not have an accent. They're very adamant about not having an accent. They do know that anytime anyone speaks at all, they have an accent, right?
Yeah, well, they didn't even address the question either about why they hired him when he has an accent. They're just like, no, I don't have an accent. We don't have accents in my family. Well, and that's the thing, is like, when you live in a particular geographical location and everyone mostly speaks similarly, you don't hear those accents. It doesn't mean you don't have one.
Yeah.
It's just that you're so accustomed to it that it doesn't sound different.
Yeah, like Rowan, for instance, where he's from, he doesn't have an accent, right? It's relative to where you are, right? You do not have an accent relative to your peers, right? Generally, if you move into an area, then you might have a different accent than your peers, but accents are, clustered based off of, regions. And so it's absurd to say that they don't have an accent at all. And Dogs Reading Books says, you do, everyone has an accent. All Norwegians don't speak the same. Norwegians from just a different part of the country speak differently, just like in the US, Australia, UK, Spain, etc. And OP replies, what accent do I have if I was born and raised in Hiroshima Beach? The accent that exists there.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, it's really important that OP is not understanding that accent does not mean low class. Like, it's just a different regional dialect. They seem to be assuming that, like, it says uneducated or low class when, like, that's a really uncool way of looking at it.
Yeah. And Crochet and Mead says, as I replied above, a Californian accent? And OP replies, no such thing. Yeah, Californians actually have an accent compared to, like, the East Coast, right? Like, you can tell the difference between someone who's on the West Coast and the East Coast. They have a very different accent than people on the East Coast of the U.S. I don't know what they're talking about here. I mean, this is pretty absurd that they're like, no, we don't have an accent. Like, you have there's an American accent, right? Because there's American English and then there's British English, right? And the British would be like, you guys have an American accent.
Well, they like to make fun of, everyone makes fun of the American accent.
Yeah.
Of like a toneless accent.
Yeah. So weird. So weird. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, The Twin Girls I'm Raising Called Me Daddy Today. I got married to a woman who at the time had twin girls, and they were young, 5 at the time. It's been 5 years, and today, as I took them to the mall to get some new stuff that they had been asking for, we ran past a few of their friends, and they introduced me as their dad. I am the happiest man alive, and I can't be convinced otherwise. It was all I could do to hold back the tears because I was so overwhelmed. I immediately faked having to go number 1, and I went to the bathroom and wept uncontrollably in a stall as quietly as I could. I hope any man who are step-parents that deserve this beautiful sentiment to experience it as it has been the best day of my life. I needless to say that I may have spent a few hundred more than I had been bargaining for today because no way was I saying no to anything. Heck, they could have gotten me to buy them a car if they had asked. That's how great I felt. Anyways, thanks to anyone who read this, and I hope you had a great evening and morning. I am settling into bed with a book and a cup of tea. Good night, all. Edit, thank you all for the amazing feedback. I really love this community, and all of you for really making me see that there is good in this world. I hope all of you have a great day today, as you have all made my week. Alright, folks, what do you think?
Aw, that's so sweet. I'm glad that OP got to experience this.
Yeah, I mean, this is really nice. And I mean, I think what's really important here is that it sounds like OP didn't try forcing this on them.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't like some step parents who demand that their children call them dad or mom or whatever, right? And I think that that's really what's important here is that OP allowed them to have the time and effort and space that they needed in order to call him dad, right? So I think it's great. I think it's actually a really lovely story. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Garmick says, "You're a great dad. We're so proud of you." And OP replies, "Many thanks. It feels great." And Mick Louvre says, "That's so precious. I'm so happy for you." And don't let them make the connection between their emotional state and getting stuff. That's confusing. And OP replies, "I learned about something called Van Cleef and how expensive it can be." And OP replies, "No, it was a one-time thing, and to be honest, it was just that I was so overwhelmed and happy, I just couldn't say no to them. It was a good day prior to them calling me dad to begin with, and we went out with the intention of getting them things that they wanted. The dad just came out of left field and made me happy. They get whatever they want anyways," laughing my butt off. Sounds like OP spoils them. And your 3 a.m. buddy says, "That's awesome. Good job, man. I'm happy for you. You're the dad, and they're proud to show that. How is your wife's reaction to you telling her about this?" And OP replies, "She was extremely happy because she felt them being so young and never knowing their father that they wouldn't ever warm up to the idea. I loved them from day one and just knew that I would always be there for them. I was so happy to hear it. Still riding the high all morning so far. I am about to go into my first procedure this morning, and I've never been happier. The patient I spoke with in pre-op even noticed some extra pep in my step. I have a dad pin that they got me in some place in the mall yesterday, and I'm wearing it loud and proud. I would snap my forehead with it if it wouldn't break the sterile protocol. I'm loving it. It's very nice. It's very nice. Clearly, OP is a surgeon.
Yeah.
Or maybe a nurse. And
Or that, yeah. Something medical.
Alright, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a jovial Bobstein joke.
Why did the monster go to San Francisco?
Well, because they know that there's a lot of earthquakes down that way, and they thought that if they jumped hard and loud enough, that they could trigger a fault line. But that's just not how it works at all. Any earthquakes would be clearly correlative and not causal.
He left his heart there.
I suppose he did. And I have Mega Mint. Alright, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Fantastic Friday, folks. I hope your Friday is going fantastically. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on being a good partner and a good parent.
Listen to the needs of the important people in your life and don't try and force them to do things they're not comfortable with.
I think that's great advice. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.